No, great. Now she's frozen. It's that wind. It's that wind blowing wherever it is. Go on, Louis. You do the intro for her.
Are we taking turns tonight to go into?
At least she froze on like a decent shot. Mine usually freezes like.
Yeah, yours was like the guy in his 50s, his 70th profile picture, like this angle.
That's it. Well, I guess we're live. Welcome, everybody. We're on. Well, I don't know. It's Bitcoin and Beyond with Mel. Mel will join us in a minute once she's unfrozen herself.
Oh, I think we've hacked the stream and taken over a show, so now we can talk about whatever we want.
Perfect. Oh, now she's just left us. She's just left us high and dry. Well, welcome everybody. Bitcoin and Beyond with Mel, who's not here. She'll join us in a minute. We're talking about due diligence and doing your homework and not saying too much about too many people when they don't like what you're saying. I guess that's the summary. What have you got for us, Lee?
Yeah, I mean, we've done that before, and we got into some deep cock. Also,
I don't know if I'd say deep cock. I'd say we got into an entertaining industry. That's what I'd say. Oh, yeah. She's back.
Yes.
We've introduced you. We've had a full-on discussion. Do you want the summary, the cliff notes?
I'm making my grand late entrance. Hello. Oh my God. Sorry about that. We were just talking about technical issues, literally, and look at that. Never in a year and a half has that happened, but hey, it's happened today. So yes, let's kick it off properly this time. Welcome. I am Melanie Carstensen. Like Gareth said, this is actually Bitcoin and Beyond, where we talk to people, we just look at ideas, projects shaping the future of Bitcoin. And today I'm joined by the two gentlemen who have probably already introduced themselves. Louis, Gareth, welcome to the show. We are going to be talking about not open claw. We're supposed to be talking we're going to get into it. We're also going to be looking at, like the title says, do your own research. The guys have got an incredible story to tell us. And I can't wait to share all of that with you. But I just have to say, before we kick off, there are going to be some probably controversial things spoken about today. So I just want to say this at the beginning of the show. The discussion references publicly available regulatory notices and media reporting. The matters discussed are subject to dispute and legal processes. Nothing in this conversation constitutes legal or financial advice. Viewers are encouraged to consult primary sources and conduct their own research. Oh my God. All right, guys, I just had to get that out of the way because in case we do get a bit controversial, I think one of the reasons I did want to talk to Gareth and Louis was about a lawsuit that they are involved with. It's a fascinating story. Louis, I met in person at Adopting Bitcoin Cape Town a couple of weeks ago, and he did a talk on this, so I kind of like roped him in to join us here on the show. So yeah, that's us. Hi guys, have you introduced yourselves?
Yes, indeed. But you've done it better now, so thank you.
Oh, okay. So, are you there, Gareth?
Yeah, no, I'm here. Yeah, I'm here.
There we go.
I don't want to take over again.
All right, so let's start easy. Let's kind of roll in for those sort of watching the show, or I mean, if you may have watched the show that I've had with Gareth before. But let's kind of just talk about who you guys are. And I always like to kick the show off with what is your Bitcoin story. So let's start with you, Louis, and then Gareth. Just tell us a little about who you are, what you do. You're in KZN, I think. And then just kind of how you got into tech and into Bitcoin.
Yeah. So, that's a lot to say. So I'll try and distill it down. But I'm a software dev by trade, and my day job isn't in Bitcoin. It's in point of sale software, which is quite old school tech, financial stuff and reporting and that. So, but this is more like a passion thing for me, and I'm trying to bridge my day job into this interest. But how I met Gareth was we were part of a Telegram community called Bitcoin Czar, and he was one of the original members on there, and I think I joined in about 2017 or so. I knew about Bitcoin before that, but I was very skeptical, and then it just clicked for me in 2017. So I think I bought my first Bitcoin Satoshis around then, and then just started learning about it and writing about it and just getting involved in different communities to find out more about it. And obviously, a lot of people have gone the same trajectory. You get into Ethereum and Ripple and all the other shit coins, but in the end, it just leads back to Bitcoin, the original and best. So yeah, and then obviously Gareth started a YouTube channel called Gcrypt, and he asked myself and Francois from Bitcoin Czar to be on there, and then we had some fun, and then it got us into trouble.
Look at these two faces. I mean, could you think that Gareth might get you into trouble? I'm just looking in that direction and I'm feeling guilty. So
yeah, listen, he's a hoot to be around. I mean, we had a jol at the conference, and then we went on the road trip. So yeah, I got to know him really well in a week and a little bit.
Yeah, I want to hear all about that as well. You know, it's funny, before we go over to Gareth, I was just thinking while you were talking, it always reminds me when I hear that story, because a lot of people kind of go, they like Ethereum, they know about Bitcoin, then because all that, you know, the most current stories kind of are around that sort of Ethereum, you know, run, in 2021. And I always feel like it's when you're telling a teenager, like, don't do that because this is what's going to happen. And a teenager knows better. That's how I always feel about that story. It's like, yeah, don't worry. Okay, you'll come to Bitcoin eventually. Off you go. Exactly. You know what I mean? People like naughty teenagers. Anyway, talking about naughty teenagers, Gareth, welcome.
I'll have you know, I'm 37, and I'm staying 37 for the rest of my life.
There we go.
I've decided. I identify as 37. I don't care how old I am. 37 to me is the sweet spot. Yeah, thanks, Mel. How's it, Louis? Yeah, so just quickly about me. I got into Bitcoin late 2011. I was working on looking at payment technologies, working on a project to build software completely unrelated. I'm not a dev. I can tinker about a bit, but I'm not a proper dev. Yeah, I thought Bitcoin was a scam, and that bothered me. I needed to figure out how this scam works. I then met a guy, Charlie Shrem, who.
When was this? Sorry to interrupt you, Gareth. When was this?
This was early 2012.
Okay, sure.
And yeah, and he sort of explained it to me in a different way, and that's when it sort of light bulbs went on. You know, I took a whole week to try and figure out the scam, couldn't figure it out, and then I realized what it actually was. And I like to sort of summarize that it's an insurance against fiat currency. It's not a replacement in my mind, but it's an insurance. And I've sort of grown, you know, like most people, come across different things and different concepts and accepted them as the truth, and then changed my mind later on when new evidence came out. But yeah, I started an exchange in South Africa. It went pretty well, and then it all went tits up in the end. About 2021, and that's a whole other story. That's another 5 shows we can do. But yeah, then sort of took a couple of years out and started a new company called Layers Wallet, non-custodial Bitcoin wallet, and now I'm talking to you guys.
Excellent. From London, and Louis from Durban, and I'm in Cape Town. So, but
all
originally
over the place.
Originally from. Were you from Cape Town, or Gareth, originally before you went overseas?
I am from the place that had the first stock exchange in South Africa. Go on, it's a question. Any guesses?
Gauteng?
I know.
Klerksdorp.
Really? Is that where the first stock exchange in South Africa was?
Well, it wasn't. It was the first. It was they traded gold notes. So it was technically the first sort of stock exchange in South Africa.
Fascinating. Okay.
I was going to ask, stock exchange like stocks or like livestock?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, now, actually, there's another funny story. I know, I'm getting off track here,
If you're
but
from South Africa and you know Klagsdorp, you'll really think Louis' question is funny.
Well, it is, because if you go into the Afrikaans dictionary and you look at the word bokslachter, right, then it actually says inwoner van Klerksdorp, like a citizen of Klerksdorp.
No way.
No. So the
That's
first
cool.
abattoir, then, is that kind of what this is, where they killing
No,
animals?
I don't think there was an abattoir. I think this is out in public, out in the open.
Great. All right, so that's a little bit about Klagsdorp, far from Bitcoin. Okay, so let's kind of chat a little bit about, before we go like haywire, the show's called Do Your Own Research, right? And I think when I heard the story first from Gareth and then Louis, when I heard you speak about it at Adopting Bitcoin, I just felt like, and I was at the time, I was listening to that. We chatted about it. I was listening to that. What's it? OneCoin podcast. Yeah. So I was listening to this podcast about this OneCoin, and then Louis did this talk. So I was absolutely blown away. It was serendipitous. So let's talk about it. Just sort of a broad overview. Just because we'll sort of dig into the weeds of it, but just what is the company and what is the lawsuit? Just so we can kind of know what we talk. Can we mention the company's name?
I'll mention it. They can. I'll mention it. Let them sue me again. It's fine. I don't mind.
God.
They're not going to get any. They're not going to get anywhere with. They're not going to get anywhere with it. I'm happy for them to sue me.
Say it's a company. We'll just say it's a company for now. If it slips out later, it slips out. But it's a couple of 100 million.
Well, it is on the court papers. It's in the public domain.
Well, firstly, it's not a company. It's a whole host of shell companies and shell names, and you can just change the name as and when, but it's the same people. Sort of rough background on it is there's a guy, Tony de Gouveia, that was in the crypto space, and he was promoting a thing called, I can't remember if it's Lifestyle Galaxy or Galaxy Mining or some other thing. It's basically an MLM, multi-level marketing. They like to call it direct marketing. This guy came on the radar with some of these projects. We never really bought into it. It went sort of quiet, and then was it maybe 2018, 19, somewhere around that. This thing called Karatbars just blew up. This was everywhere, and it was pretty prolific in South Africa as a result of a few guys that are very big into multi-level marketing. Now, obviously, with Bitcoin and crypto being what it is, these guys jumped on it because their schemes never really worked, having to do it through the banking system, because the banks would shut them down. They would just shut the accounts. So Bitcoin/crypto gave them a really good mechanism to effectively get pooled funds from people participating in these schemes. I think that's the sort of long and short of it. Karatbars, then, they were promising the moon and the sky and the world and the earth and everything else. They created their own tokens, and they were tokenizing gold. And it was two guys, Joseph Haidt and Harold Zeiss. So Harold Zeiss is apparently the guy who started Karatbars, and at the time that he started it, the story goes, it was actually some sort of a, you buy gold or shares, or you get gold sent to you in like little tidbits or something. But again, I wouldn't say that was necessarily something dodgy, but who knows. But then he connected up with this guy called Joseph Haidt, and they changed this whole Karatbars thing into a crypto scheme, with crypto tokens, and it's basically an MLM. That's the long and short of it. And they sort of reinvented new products, everything from a blockchain based phone, the K1, through to you name it, they did it. because these schemes, to be legal, they have to the recruitment component needs to be, I think it's something less than 30% of the income. So they have to create these products to make it seem like it's a real business. Now, I'm not speaking to the intent of what they did. I'm just speaking to the reality of what happened. So I don't know what the intent was, because I don't live in somebody's head. I can make my own conclusions, but in reality, it ended up just being a recruitment scheme. The two of them apparently fell out. And this is when GS, insert name here, was born. Now, GS is gold standard, because it was a gold standard. They started off calling themselves Gold Standard Bank, Gold Standard Partners, Gold Standard, whatever. You just put the name in after Gold Standard. And they created this token called G999. And it's when they launched this thing that we sort of looked into it, and we were like, this was literally, I think, like a month after they launched it. We looked at all their training videos and everything they were doing, and came to the conclusion that this is a scheme and it's basically a cock investment. And that was my words. And that I would just be passing. I wouldn't be joining it, because it was pretty obvious and pretty clear what the business model was, which was effectively MLM recruitment.
So, Louis, thanks, Gareth. Just a few things. So, is there a blockchain?
Yeah.
Let's start there.
Yeah. So it's not like one coin at all that didn't have a product or a blockchain. So there's a literal blockchain. So in Karatbars, they had KBC, which was a token issued on Ethereum. But GS Partners, the G999 that Gareth mentioned, is on Avalanche. Am I right? Yeah, it's a second layer on AVAX, which is its own blockchain. But yeah, so they launched their own blockchain, which was a copy of an open source chain called Pivx, wasn't it? Yeah. Oh, sorry, that's G999. You're right. Yeah. We're talking about, there's another new coin that we haven't even got into. That's on Avalanche, but yeah, it's on. It was a fork of Pivx.
Okay.
Yeah, they effectively copied another blockchain and rebranded it and sold it as this technological wonder that was going to change the world, and the whole world was going to run on this blockchain. That's the sort of.
So is this coin? So the coin. So let's just see here. Okay, so it started off as sort of an investment institution of sorts. Then it moved into Karatbars, which is where you could buy little small pieces of gold. I think it was that you said it's almost like a Krugerrand, but a quarter of, but this big. It sort of comes in a. Is that right? So that was Karatbars. Right. So that was
with Karatbars, what they did, it started off as a thing where you buy gold, right, and they send you a little chip of gold. Then it mutated into this tokenized gold, where they would hold the gold in vaults, some special secret vaults, and they would send you a token that represented the gold in the vault. But the gold never existed in any vault. They actually rented gold in Hong Kong. This is hilarious. They actually rented gold so that they could do videos where they're sitting in front of all these bars of gold. But they just actually rented it for the day.
Is this actual reported fact that they actually rented?
The videos, no, the videos are there. Like, you can see the stamps on the gold. The videos, it's literally, the videos are there. Like, wow. This is not it's not even reported. This is before AI made videos. This is legit videos.
And then, so then the Karatbars, and then Karatbars. Is this the same people that are doing this just to keep track, or was this people that kind of sparked off? Because you said there were a number of sort of different organizations. So I just want to kind of try and follow that. So then they created this new blockchain and the G999 coin. And is that tradable on an exchange? Is that like a normal cryptocurrency? And does it still exist? Louis, maybe you let us.
Yeah, they've got their own exchange, GS Trade. I think it was listed on a couple of third-party exchanges, but the volumes are so low now, so I don't think they're still listed. But yeah, it was tradable. So just to tie the Karatbars thing to GS whatever, GS Partners or GS Bank. So because the KBC coin from Karatbars was redeemable for gold, or so they claimed. So they had a massive hoo-ha in Las Vegas in 2019 where you could go and redeem your tokens, but nothing happened.
In the real world?
In the real world, you were supposed to be able to redeem it for physical gold, which was just a ruse. So people rocked up there and they couldn't do it. And that's when stuff started falling apart. So the gold thing seems to be a narrative that they carry through. So the G999 refers to the purity of the gold. So it's 99.999%, which is why it's called G999. So they just launched that promise as a new token, but it's not backed by anything. It's supposed to be a gold sort of token. But they always, those themes tie the two together. So it's a direct link between Karatbars and GS Partners.
And are they still running today? Is it still? Do they still exist?
Not as G999. G999 ended up. It wasn't too long after we did our stuff. The US cottoned on the Securities Exchange. Or no, it was the Texas Securities Board started doing warnings, and they sort of picked up on these guys, and they put a stop to it effectively for all intents and purposes. But like all MLMs, they only last 2, 3, 4 years, and then they rebrand into something else. So that's exactly what they did. They've rebranded into a new thing called, and again, this is one of their tricks, is they've got all these names for different parts and different components, and it just becomes so messy that you don't actually know what you're talking about, and it sounds like it's nonsense. But the latest iteration is a thing called, I don't know, you can either call it DAO1 or you can call it a Pertum. It's the same thing. It's a token, and this token is gonna change your life. Every week or every month there's a new way how this token works or how this thing works. That's the sort of playbook. But the ultimate goal behind it is just to get people recruiting people.
And then who started the idea? I mean, you were saying just sort of a timeline now. Why did you guys decide to speak about this publicly? And who kind of, out of the two of you, how did this all sort of start? Because I have watched the podcast, and Louis sent me the links to the podcast. So I'm just going to stay serious. So yeah, how did that? Just let's see. How did you know this? How did you hear about this? And then why did you decide to talk about it publicly? How did that sort of come about?
I think it was the promoters, because we were already watching Karatbars and these guys were all involved in that. So we were waiting. No. Oh. We literally just were curious to see what they were up to next. So when they launched this new product or company, we were already waiting to see what's going to happen. And then we sort of cottoned onto it early before it went public or before it got traction. So when we did those videos, like Gareth said, it was about a month or two out. It was still like soft launch phase. So we were really on top of it before anyone else knew about it. And obviously they didn't like the criticism because they rely on that network effect for the stuff to propagate and to spread.
Yeah, it was it's an interesting one. So we were covering news. We went into crypto, into Bitcoin. We were just talking shit every week about various things.
So you guys had a podcast before this. This is just a podcast.
Yeah. And then what happened was we knew about Karatbars and we knew what they were selling and what was really happening behind everything. And then this G999 thing came out, and it started off with them doing voice over blockchain. And again, this is one of those things, when I see something, I'm like, I need to figure out how this works, because I couldn't figure out how this thing is going to work. How are you going to, it just doesn't make sense to put voice or like messaging over blockchain. It just didn't make sense to me. So we read the white paper, started looking into it, and then realized that, you know, they've got all these promoters selling it, but they use buzzwords and they sell stuff to people who really don't know anything. And because they know a little bit, they sound like experts. And at the time, I can't remember the exact numbers. I've got some blog posts on it, but in the white paper, they were very clever how the way they were pricing it. And the way they were pricing this thing is that it was going to cost you, I think if I recall, something like $57,000, because the pricing model was in bytes. So, you know, there's 1,000 bytes and a kilobyte, and like it was priced in bytes. So it looked cheap, but if you actually look at it, was something like a 3-minute video would cost you $50,000 to send on this blockchain. So, and the idea is that this token's value would go up, and the more the value goes up, the more expensive it would be to send video on this blockchain. So nobody's going to use the blockchain, and if nobody's using the blockchain, the value of the tokens, there's no need for the token, so it's not going to go up, it's going to go down. And this is what we basically explain to people.
Yeah. And another thing, I mean, if you're transmitting streaming data on a blockchain, you can't, because there's a block time, so there will be a delay between each chunk of data. You need a layer 2 on top of that can handle it. Like, I mean, for this transmission on top of whatever HTTP, there's a streaming protocol, but a blockchain doesn't have that natively. So they couldn't even answer that question, how that tech works. So we were trying to get answers, and we were curious.
Yeah, it's such a sad thing that, you know, you spoke about it at Adopting Bitcoin, Gareth, just about sort of these buzzwords, and, you know, that you know, when we say decentralized, or, you know, people hear Ponzi scheme, you know, or when we say, you know, I don't know, whatever the words are that we use, there's just these negative connotations attached to the words. And, you know, it's just sad then when the tech is kind of, you know, given a bad rep because people can come along and they use these buzzwords, and because people are so confused by them as it is, it's so easy to, you know, to pull the wool over people's eyes. Not that I'm saying that they did, but
no, you're dead right there. And I think the sad thing, the real sad thing is the people they targeted, because the way this thing works is you invite people to a seminar, and then the seminar will be in like Cape Town in some fancy hotel, or in Joburg in a fancy convention center or something like that. So you invite the sort of, you get they have these levels, and you get the guy who invites people to the seminar. The people go to the seminar, and then he'll introduce like the area leader, and then the area leader will get a video link from the chairman of the cheese board. That's the way they layer these things, so that it feels like you really on the bleeding edge technology, and you're in there. But what they do is they like to promote the lifestyle of not having to work, especially preying on people. I say preying, especially targeting people that realize they don't have retirement funds. That's the main target. That's the sweet spot. They go, and if you look at the videos of the attendees, you can see they're all like, you're not going to find many people under 50 there. It's all people that have disposable cash. They may be retiring, they may have already retired, or they might have lost their jobs, and they've got a bit of a severance package. Those are the people that is gold to them. So these are the people that go to these seminars, and the seminars are always billed as, come and learn about Bitcoin. Come and learn about the technology. It's not they don't say anything about their product or anything like that. It's teaching you about blockchain. They love teaching people about blockchain. And then there's like a short little quick intro, and then it just jumps on to, okay, but this is how you can make money, because I make 10 million a month, and look at my Ferrari, and look at my Rolex. And by then, you know, I don't blame the people. By then they're so caught up in the whole thing that they just go with whatever they're told to do.
Yeah, that's the thing. You know, it's sad, because another thing, and I mean, I'm sure you find it as well, where people think, okay, I've missed my opportunity with Bitcoin. Like it was worth, nothing in 2008. Now it's hit its peak. So now I have to find the thing. And I'm smart enough to know these few people over here that know what the next big thing is. So now I'm going to jump in on it. And I mean, I've seen firsthand actually a guy who works at where I have my hair done, and they knew for 2 years I was sort of talking about Bitcoin. They knew what I was doing with my life. And he came to me the one day and he said, no, he wants to start investing in Bitcoin. So I said to him, okay, listen, here's a few rules about Bitcoin. If somebody comes to you and they say, I'm going to help you make money, turn around and walk away because they're a scammer. Not that I'm calling, please, this is just my personal story. Because the whole point about Bitcoin is being able to create your own wealth, and then, so I said to him, just do it yourself and also learn about the tech, use it as a learning opportunity and never put a lump sum in. In the beginning, start with a little bit and then feel how that feels for you. Then put another little bit and, small amounts, $500, anyway. So I kept every time I went there, he was asking me a little bit more about Bitcoin. Then I went in, like, I don't know, a month or 2 months later, whenever it was. And he said to me, I invested some money and now I'm having some trouble getting it out. And I just want to know if you can help me. So I said to him, okay, well, what do you mean you can't get it out? So he said, no, because the person that I gave the money to, and I just said to him, okay.
Oh,
yeah. He met a girl on Facebook and she told him that she was going to, because he said to me his Bitcoin is 10, she said it's 10x'd. How much what does that mean he's got? That's what he said to me. He said, I gave her 30,000 Rand and she says it's 10x'd. So I said to him, okay, when did you give it to her? So he said 6 months ago. So I said, okay, have you ever looked at a Bitcoin chart? So he's like, no. So I said to him, okay, yeah. And, it made me so sad, though, because this is somebody who knows me personally, who's known me for years, and who still got caught up in that. This lady said, listen, if you go the normal Bitcoin route, there's no ways you can make as money if I invest your Bitcoin, and kind of drew him into this trap. So, I hear what you're saying, Gareth, about, sort of targeting a lot of these kind of, what can we say, kind of like alternate opportunities are kind of targeted at those people who think, oh, well, I missed it. This is my way, So now, when you guys then did the podcast, okay, and did you do anything else? Was it just you did the podcast and then did they reach out to you? How did that all sort of like pan out now? Now you've gone, I've seen the podcast. You did a couple of episodes where you kind of looked through their website and sort of spoke very publicly about what you thought maybe where they were at fault in what they were doing, something like that. And then what happened?
Sure. They couldn't sue us straight up, so we got a little love letter. I think it was a combined letter because there's other guys that were also sued in their own capacity, where they sort of sent us a general letter with stuff, you wrote this on X or Twitter at that time. You said this on this Telegram group, sort of trying to fish and, just prod, see what happened. And I don't know what happened with that, but there was like a few warning shots. And then obviously they knew they were sort of testing us to see how we respond. And then obviously the proper summons came after that.
Did you take
there's a standard playbook with all these MLMs, like with all these schemes. Like there's literally a book. I can't remember the guy's name, but some guy in the States, in the US, that's it, that wrote a book on this. There's a playbook on how you do it, and the standard approach for any of these MLMs, regardless of whether it's crypto or anything else, it's that they all do the same thing. First, they'll send you a letter saying that we are going to sue you for defamation, blah 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 blah. Most people sort of, it's not worth it. You're not making any money by talking about these guys, so it's not worth the hassle. So most people then remove whatever blog post or video or whatever they've done. And then the next step is for the people that get a bit arsy, because some people are arsy and they just refuse to remove it, then they will actually take legal action. So they usually try it in their home jurisdictions first, and they get, I mean, again, I have no proof of this, but looking at the way it's happened, they managed to connect with lawyers that how shall I put this, that can make things happen in jurisdictions. They can get, like local magistrates to issue some sort of legal directive, and then, oh, this is now the law, without you having the chance to defend it or do anything. It's the way they operate. But in our case, they needed to sue us in South Africa, so they managed to find a lawyer, Otto Krause, who took a huge deposit, because they were not South African, so they had to put a deposit down in case this thing doesn't go anywhere. And they sued us for defamation for 470 something million rand, because, well, defamation and loss of income, that's their story. That was the initial thing. And again, I think most people would probably go, yeah, no, we'd rather just walk away and settle. But I was like, well, it's not going to cost me anything. I've got publisher insurance, so the legal fees, it's not going to cost me. I can let the legal thing run because I'm not paying for it. And in the end, I knew for a fact there's no way they can win this. There's no way they're going to get a judgment against us, because we didn't lie about anything. We used everything we said was true. There's nothing we lied about. So I knew that it's just going to take time. So we said, look, we'll see you in court. Let's go. And so it dragged on for a couple of years, and then they tried to settle with us, offering us money, and we were like, no, we want to go to court. So that's where we're at currently. We're waiting for them to apply for a court date, which they'll never do, but that's just the way the world works.
When did this all start? Just remind me again.
2021. Yeah, this we got served in June 2021.
Now, I actually didn't know. I was so surprised. And I mean, let me just sort of start this off with, I studied law at university. I did not know. I think I drank too much while I was studying. I don't know. But I didn't know that you could kind of legitimately sue somebody. I know this sounds silly, me saying it. And that that basically means, okay, you have to swing back. You can't just be like, oh, no, I'm not interested in your, what I'm trying to say is, even if somebody's being ridiculous when they're suing you, you still actually have to respond to that, right? You can't just say, well, this lawsuit's a lot of rubbish.
Well, yeah, you can't just ignore it, because then they'll get a default judgment. So you've either got to defend it, or you've got to say, look, we're sorry, we'll remove the stuff, and please, let's settle. And that's what some of the guys did. They sort of said, okay, do
you have to pay?
It means, so the settlements that I'm aware of. I mean, yeah, no, but the settlements I'm aware of, and again, this is hearsay, but it sounds about right. Is they get you to sign an NDA promising that you'll never say anything about them again, and they won't take it any further, and they'll pay their own costs, and you pay your own costs. Okay. Which hopefully you haven't paid anything yet. But it effectively puts you in a position where you can't say anything about them again. And then it's actually good for them, because they can then go and tell their followers, look at this guy, he was saying XYZ, we sued him, and now he's shut his mouth and he's retracted his statements, which they then sell to their followers as a win. And there's nothing you can do about it. That's just the way it is. But yeah, we didn't want to. Like I said, we knew we had nothing to lose, so it didn't really matter to us. So we sort of just said, well, let's go.
So now you're waiting on them to give you a court date, at which point.
Well, see, and again, this is why they love telling their followers that they shut us up and that they won, but. It's not really the way it works. So the way it works is, because they took us to court, we're now at the point where everybody said what they needed to say. Lawyers have talked back and forth, and the lawyers don't care. They just want to bill They just want an invoice.
Yeah.
But ultimately, what needs to happen, the next step that needs to happen is they need to apply for a court date. And once they apply for a court date, then the lawyers need to start doing discovery. So they then need to start showing their evidence. And yes, it might take a long time for the South African court to actually give us a court date. That could take another 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, who knows? But the point is, the court is not going to just decide, oh, let's put this on the roll. Like the plaintiff needs to apply for the court date, which if they don't do it, then the thing will just sit there in limbo forever.
That's very annoying.
Well, I mean,
I suppose it's not anything. It's not on a record or anything. It's just out there being a.
Yeah, I mean, it's official that like there's court filings, but there's no court date and it's not going forward. But on the flip side is I'm not in contempt of court. I can say whatever I want, wherever I want. So they haven't managed to shut us up. I think that's the.
Now, how does that work? The advantage. I mean, we live in a society, right, where there are, these kind of things where people can, take, like the girl I mentioned who, took my friend for a ride. How does that, like, what can people do? Because if people know about things like this and they know, or they think there's something shady going on, are you actually not really allowed to talk about it? Well, not allowed, but do you speak about that in danger? Because I mean, I see a lot of like press, for example, where people say things, it's like investigative.
Sure.
I mean, are you allowed to do that?
Yeah. So it comes down to money. And this is the thing. So my broadband, for example, if I'm not mistaken, they actually did have an article on this, and they removed it because when they got the summons, or when they got the letter, the cease and desist letter, they just don't have the appetite to take it legal. Why bother? So they rather just remove it and move on to the next thing. Right. So it's not about. So this is why these guys know exactly which buttons to push to make things work in their favor, and they've done it multiple times with multiple schemes. So they're very good at it. And every time they go through an iteration, they pick up on the little things they need to do differently to get a little bit further the next time. So, there's nothing that says you can't do it, but it's what's the benefit? There's no, and this is, they're not special. There are tons and tons and tons of schemes like this. And a lot of them, I mean, these are the guys that have made it bigger than the rest, but there's loads of small fry that do this on a weekly, daily basis. And you could just hang out at any hotels, convention centers, stuff like that. You'll see there's these presentations happen all the time, and they're very clever because what they do is they pay footballers and sports stars. So when they were Karatbars, they got people like Roberto Carlos to be their ambassadors. More locally, on GS Partners, they paid Lucas Radebe, Herschel Gibbs, and even you can have a look at Victor Matfield. I don't know if he's taken it off, but on his Instagram, he'll be telling people, listen, there's this really good investment product. I'm involved with it, and I've done really well over the last 3 months or 6 months. All you need to do, it doesn't cost you anything. Come down, listen to what they have to say, and make up your own mind. So you're being pulled in by people that you think you can trust, but ultimately these guys are just, that's just a job for them. You get paid to say, you're an ambassador. It's like whether you're selling soap or popcorn or sweets or whatever. It's just they use these guys to push their brand as ambassadors, and they fly them over to their events, and that's how they that's how they build the trust. And you're being told, just come and listen, there's nothing to lose. But it's almost like hypnosis. When you go and sit down, the majority of people walk away there thinking, all my problems are over, I'm going to be rich. And then not realizing that you need to be really good at recruiting more people. some people try it and they end up recruiting friends and family, and they end up screwing up relationships for the rest of their lives. Other people don't do any recruitment, don't make any money, and then what they tell you is, well, you didn't work hard enough, you didn't do enough, so it's your fault that you lost your money. And it's the same playbook.
And I suppose once you start spending, I mean, I've listened to a lot of these I love podcasts about all sorts of cults and weird things like that, and things like this, and it's like once people have invested a certain amount of time when it comes to a cult, or a certain amount of money when it comes to some sort of Ponzi situation or whatever it is, they almost feel like they have to follow through and they have to believe it's true. Otherwise, they've done something bad to themselves. I think you get like a panic of like, no, this must be true.
Yep.
And I suppose that's where those kind of those big marketing, what is it called? MLMs. That's how they win. That's how they
100%. That's exactly what happens. People think, and also it's embarrassing if you've joined it and you've lost money. You don't want to admit to anyone that you've lost. So that's why they get away with it, and people just move on to the next one. But an interesting thing that they also do is because it's a proper pyramid scheme, the guys at the top don't always have to work that hard, because they tend to, there's always someone that sort of slots in as the like the protege, and we've been following them, and it's literally the same thing has happened with all of them. The guys who were the main four guys, I think it was, in South Africa, they've all got like proteges now who's basically doing all the work for them, so they don't actively have to be out there. So people aren't now searching for Andrew Eaton anymore. They're searching for his downline, or somebody is down from him, but he's still earning. He becomes the mentor and sort of sits in the background and works in the back. And this is the way they operate.
Sorry, Mel, just to add to that, it also shields them from accountability, because when the thing crashes, then you can't go after that person. So the other ones, they shield in the firing line. So they'll wreck the company. So you can't sue the company. So you've got to go after the promoters. But now who do you sue? Because you're broke, you don't have money. You've got to make a civil case against your promoter, who's your friend. And they just say, oh, sorry, I was also duped. Sorry, I also lost money, let's start a new thing. Come with me, I'll show you this opportunity. And then they get you into the next thing, because they need to preserve their downline so they can keep earning commissions off you in the new scheme. And they just roll you over and say, okay, we'll give you 1,000 new coins on this thing to make up for your loss, but then just stick with me, we'll make it back, don't worry. And then they roll them over.
So crazy. I was listening to another one as well the other day, and the guy kind of did exactly that. He was kind of just going around, and he almost just disappeared into the background, and he eventually got also sued and went to court, and eventually said he was going to represent himself. It's like a legend, and also actually from South Africa, and said, no, I'm going to represent myself. And then the judge was like, it's disgusting what you've done, blah, blah, fish paste. And he's like, exactly. So it's like they were reading some of the court transcripts, and she's like, what do you mean exactly? He said, well, that's why we're here today, right? I've been trying for so long to dissolve this company because it's not making any money. Ask all these people. So now we want you to dissolve it. So she's like, that's not, but exactly what you were saying, Gareth. It's like it gets so twisted that the judge even was just like, no matter what she said, and he walks out of court, and the BBC are with him walking, and he's like, well, I couldn't have got a better result. I've been trying to dissolve this. And the woman's like, but I've been following you for 2 years. That's absolutely not what happened. And then put out an announcement the next day, and that he actually had the whole case was about him wanting to dissolve his company. So just going back to what you were saying about how they can, you kind of manipulate the truth until it gets so confusing that you're actually not sure. And then what they were saying as well is that, exactly going back to the whistleblowers, is that every time somebody said something, they would release a statement that said these people are like sour grapes because they lost all their money. And so, you know, blaming them again because they lost money. Meanwhile, there was never any money in the beginning.
Yeah, this is exactly what they do. They'll get the people, because the way you got to understand this is when they sell it to you, when they sell this idea to you, it's being sold as a business in a box. So you are your own business. You are the one in charge of this. So that sort of creates this thing that when one of their recruitees goes and says, oh, you're going to make money out of this, and puts it out on the internet, you know, this is the next big thing, and this is why you'll make money, and effectively gives financial advice, then a problem arises, and then they just go, well, it's not us, you know, this is not our training manuals, we didn't say that, this is a guy that went rogue and just started talking by, you know, his own nonsense, so this is not the company's position, that was that person's position, that's, you know, he runs his own business. But all of these materials come from the top, and it's all done from the top. And the latest one is the same thing. This Dow one, I don't know, is it Dow one or a Apertum, Louis? I'm not sure how to refer to it.
Dow one's the company or the foundation, and Apertum's the coin.
Okay, so Apertum, this is the latest one, and what they'll do is, you know, people that people that challenge them. You know, if you go to Coca-Cola and you say, you know, your product is shit, it's giving people cancer, then they're not going to sue you. They're going to say, okay, well, here's the reason why it's not, or they're going to engage. They're going to stand their ground. They're not going to shut you up. You know, any real business, if you go and criticize them, I mean, of course, if it's, you know, if I go out and I say that, you know, I don't know, some wine farm is now injecting some other illegal pesticide in their food and or in their wine and on their grapes, and it's not true, then yes, they'll sue me. But this is not how these guys operate. They attack the person. So they'll make videos. I mean, you can go and look at it. There's a bunch of videos of me from the latest guy about, you know, what a big scammer I am, and now I'm a criminal, and they just try and whatever they are guilty of, they will project on whoever criticizes them. And that also scares a lot of people from criticizing them.
Yeah.
And to add what Gareth is saying about the negative publicity, so go look at online reviews of these companies. You'll never see negative stuff. There might be one or two, but it's almost like they thrive on only positivity, and any negativity is not allowed because it'll bring the house of cards down. So as soon as there's something negative written about them, they'll get it removed. You can't have, and it's also a red flag because there's never bad stuff about it. It's just everything you read is amazing and how it's life-changing and great.
Yeah, they've got a bunch of guys in Ukraine or Russia or somewhere. I don't even know. The guy called me the one day because I've got a blog as well with some of these, where I've written the whole history of it all down, and I've refused to take it down. And then, you know, what they do is they go to Google and they fake your own name. That's how our channel got removed, because they created a fake identity using my name, saying that it's copyright infringement. So pretending that to be me, saying that somebody is infringing my copyright on my own channel. So they're very clever. Yeah, they're very clever. And YouTube, it's all AI and botted. So, you know, once that happens, it's a goner. So they do that with Google search results. They'll go to Google. They even sued Google and won in Germany. But again, this was they didn't tell Google that they're going to court. They just did it. It's like a local magistrate's court. And they just know how to abuse the legal system. They're very, very good at that. You know, I'll give them credit. They're very good at abusing the legal system. So yeah, they got a judgment against Google, which, I mean, you know, you draw your own conclusions. How many people get a judgment against Google? But yeah, they got this judgment, and apparently, again, they tell all their followers, we beat Google. So this is how they remove stuff from Google search, or yeah, this is how they keep everything nice and sterile.
Now, all right, let's bring it back to Bitcoin. So, and kind of the idea of why do your own research is so important. So Bitcoin teaches us trust, trust, verify, don't trust, verify, don't trust. So let's talk about ways, especially, I mean, I think, Louis, you take this. What are some practical steps that anybody who's listening to this, who does want to get involved with crypto, some advice that you kind of picked up along the way, and the steps they should take before investing in anything, whether it's Bitcoin or any other promise of wealth?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned it before, Mel, like your friend, as soon as there's a broker or someone involved, then don't do it, because that's a red flag. I mean, you should do your own investing. It's not, you don't need a gatekeeper or a financial advisor or someone a broker. You do it yourself on an exchange, buy that Bitcoin, and then hold it for yourself. Don't let someone else custody it for you. So take ownership of it. And with that comes the responsibility of learning about it. So you need to, well, I think Gareth's talk was about how you become curious. So once you have those coins, then learn about it, sort of play with it, make mistakes. It's just knowing what the red flags are. If something's too good to be true, it's probably is. Stay away from crypto with recruitment involved. Definitely 99.999% a scam. If anything's based in Dubai and it's crypto, stay away. It's definitely a scam. Yeah, Dubai is the crypto scam capital of the world. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah.
Now, I think for me, it's not one specific thing. If it's like Louis said, if there's a guy doing a video in Dubai and the guy's not wearing any socks, and you're going to laugh at this, but this is true. If he's wearing a suit and he's not wearing socks and he's all dandy and he's climbing out of a Ferrari and, he's told you that he barely works 2 hours a day, it's all these things together. When all these, just one thing by itself is not necessarily going to... Oh, they don't wear socks. Well, they wear these secret socks. It's like a fashion thing. They're the biggest. I'm not calling them scammers. I'm calling them schemers.
The lifestyle entrepreneurs.
Right? It's a scheme.
Oh, okay.
The lifestyle entrepreneurs. It's like a thing, and you can actually see their evolution. This guy Tony, for example, when he was doing shit locally, wasn't all that, and then he got involved with the GS9 or GS9 or 999 with Joseph Eitlot, and all of a sudden he was also doing the Turkish, pulling the nose hairs and the wax in the ears and the fancy suit. He used to run around with a black t-shirt and a black jeans, and then it becomes the double-breasted Miami Vice suit, and it's a look. It's a thing that they need to do to fit in, and this is how they build each other up. But yeah, the lot of them, there's like a theme with them, where all these photos, like if you look at Instagram, all these photos of them, they wear secret socks because it's a fashion thing, so you can see the ankles. And whenever they take a photo, I kid you not, go and have a look at, and I'm not, I shouldn't be saying it's the polio look, but they tend to lift the one leg when they take photos, like the one ankle is lifted up to, and we don't know why. We haven't figured that one out yet, but you can literally go do yourself a favor and look at all of their pictures. This is how they take pictures.
I think it's a slimming thing. I think
I don't know.
if you look at Sports Illustrated, I'm sure it makes you.
I don't know.
Who knows? Okay, we'll check that out. Not fashion advice, not financial advice, not legal advice.
So the one thing I would add, that I would say to people, is understand recourse. That's the key thing you've got to be focusing on. Understand your recourse. Yeah. If I invest $5 in X, what recourse have I got? Can I, if I go invest $10 or $100 in Bitcoin tomorrow, am I able, if Bitcoin price drops by 20%, am I able to still exit? Is there what gatekeepers are there? Am I actually able to sell that Bitcoin myself to someone else or to another exchange? Have I got full control of it, or is this just a number that I'm seeing on a screen? So understanding what recourse, and I think it's with anything really, understanding your recourse. When you go and buy a car off Gumtree, that's footsteps, baby. There's no recourse. But when you go and buy it from a regulated broker, dealer, car dealership, there's a little bit more safety. If you go and buy it from a Ford, a Toyota, an actual authorized dealership, you've got more security, more safety. If you buy a brand new car, then now your consumer protection starts kicking in, and all sorts of other protections start kicking in. So, if something pretty much very little is regulated, there are regulations, but very little is regulated. Like, you can go and complain to the FSCA tomorrow about these guys, and they're going to ignore it. Nothing's going to come of it, because they get a million complaints from a million different things. So unless it really blows up, there's nothing's going to happen. So you want to focus on understanding what recourse you have whenever you get involved in any sort of crypto thing, because it's not always a dodgy thing. Sometimes shit goes wrong. That happens. So it's understanding your risk and what recourse you have. And if you can focus on that, then I think if there's a money back guarantee where you're going to get your money back on something, there's no point me giving you a money back guarantee when I sell you something. But if Pick and Pay advertises a money back guarantee, then they're going to have to honor it.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, exactly. I think really both really good points. And I think the two key ones are to, like you said, Gareth, now to know your recourse, and then also to you're going to lose money. I think, to me, that's what I always say to people is, first, be prepared to lose. It's like when you go to university. That's what I've always said to people. My first couple of years, I traded. I mean, I can't trade, but I did it with small amounts each month. That was my money to almost throw away, because I wanted to play with the technology so that I could learn it, because there's so much information to read, because I often think, like, what does do your own research mean? It's not simply reading, an article or going onto YouTube and watching the first YouTube video you see, searching investing in crypto, and then, watching the first two videos. Isn't it about burning your fingers a little bit? And by that I mean saying, take 200 Rand a month or 300 or whatever it is. I mean, again, not financial advice, but you know what I mean? Because it's important for people to understand, what does do your own research mean?
Yeah, I think you've got it spot on there, and that's so important, because people think do your own research means, here's company X, let me go on to, what's that, Peter, what's that, something, hello Peter, whatever, let me go on there and see if somebody says anything negative, or let me go on to whatever review site and see if there's a review, which is that's not what do your own research means. Do your own research.
Don't read the website. Just while you're on that, don't read the website. That's another one. Don't just read the website and think that's you doing research.
Yeah,
because you can write whatever you want on your website.
Research is not so much external as it's internal, is the way I see it. And this is where it links onto what you're saying with, you got to gamble a little bit. Research your situation, understand your position in the bigger scheme of things, understand what it is that you are doing and how you fit into this whole ecosystem. So if we use Bitcoin, for example, understand how technical you are and know how much knowledge you've got. If you've got zero knowledge and you don't trust yourself and you're not very good with any sort of tech stuff, then self-custody might be risky for you. If you still want to get into Bitcoin, you are probably better off than going via an ETF or something where it's more regulated, etc. That's not the Bitcoin thing to say, but that's reality.
But I think even if you just use a centralized wallet and, something like Luna, to me, is the perfect thing for a South African person that, that's what I said to people, just open a Luna account, link it to your bank account, then you get that feeling. Put 200 Rand in, buy Bitcoin, take the 200 Rand out. Now you've experienced the circle, because that is also what scares people is and I think that's where people fall into these traps, because they think, okay, well, I actually know the person. I've met the person, which means I'm safer than who is Bitcoin? Who do I phone for Bitcoin? You know what I mean? So I think that's where you can also fall into a trap where someone comes and says, look, don't worry. It's so difficult. I know so many people who've lost money. Let me help you. And you just feel, oh, phew, I want to get in. So that's why, for me, that's the first thing is buy the Bitcoin, sell the Bitcoin. Do that.
Yeah, but again, it depends on your personal situation, because if you're a multimillionaire and, you want to buy a couple of million rands worth of Bitcoin, you're absolutely bonkers going to a centralized exchange and keeping it on there. There's
I'm
no
just
need.
talking about the Joe Soap in the street who's like...
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So that's what I'm saying. The research, do your own research for me needs to be research your situation in that ecosystem. Right. Because if you're just somebody who wants to understand it and get into it and just play a little, buy 1,000 Rand, in that instance, you're probably stupid going straight to the hardware wallet, blah, blah, blah. You're probably better off just getting a Valor or Luno or a centralized, if that's what you're doing. But again, it comes back to, I think research is probably, we've fallen into this do your own research thing, but I almost want to say that shouldn't be it. Evaluate your situation in context of what you're getting into. That's, I think, the key thing that people need to do. Because this is where it really goes wrong. It's you assume that I'm the same as Louis, as you, as we all assume we're all in the same boat. And I'm happy to take a risk where I lose 1,000 Rand. But the guy who works in Louis' garden, 1,000 Rand loss for him is a huge impact. So there's no way we can do the same thing. That it doesn't make sense. So it's about understanding who you are and your situation and how that fits into the wider ecosystem.
Yeah, I'm just kind of busy writing it down as you speak, because I like that. Kind of like evaluate yourself, your own risk tolerance, your own access to information, and your own sort of like you can lose a budget,
and also look at the actual numbers. I mean, I had somebody the other day that said to me, "Oh, she wants to buy 1,000 Rands worth of Bitcoin. She wants to buy 1,000 Rands worth of Bitcoin, and how much money is she going to make?" And I said to her, well, it's not about the Rand numbers. That's irrelevant. You've got to look at the percentage. If you're going to be buying 1,000 Rands worth of Bitcoin and Bitcoin doubles, then you've only got 2,000 Rand. Yeah. Now, are you happy with, on average, what historical data says? Are you happy to wait 3 years to double 1,000 Rand? Yeah. I mean, some people, that's great. Me personally, I wouldn't bother. To me, that's like we're not going to bother. So it's really down to understanding, not getting caught up. And again, it comes back to these buzzwords. It comes back to these concepts that remove the actual reality from what you're busy doing. If you're going to be buying 5 million Rands worth of Bitcoin, and in 3 years' time it's worth 10 million, that's a whole different proposition. Whereas 1,000 Rand going to 2,000 Rand, that's sort of
Yeah. And to add to that, I think we spoke to a few people in the circular economies after the conference, and they actually can't live on that volatility. So they put some of their day-to-day funds in stable sats, or like a USD type stable coin, because tomorrow they need to pay for food. So they can't have all that volatility in Bitcoin. So that's a different reality for someone as compared to someone living in Witsun that's got a lot of savings and cash to keep for 3 years. So how do you address that reality for that person? Because it's a totally different experience.
Yeah, you can't give them the same message, and their environments are completely different. So this is where the research, and that's what I'm saying, it's not research, it's more evaluation.
Yeah. It is. I mean, because that's another whole thing, I mean, we sort of, it's fascinating, and it's another whole conversation, kind of this, circular economy. And when you're living in a country like ours, where it's all good and well to say, yes, spend sats, but at the same time, when you can pay, 10 Rand for a loaf of bread, which is going to feed you for a few days on day one, and on day 4, you can pay 20 Rand for a loaf of bread. It becomes like an interesting sort of like, how does that work? You've got to, and again, that to me is another thing, like I try and share with people, is you have to first save some before you can start spending some, because then you're spending your past gains or your past savings, and continuing. I don't know. I think there's a million, probably many sort of pieces of advice, as the years go on, that you can share with people. But I like it, Gareth. I think that it's exactly that. I think do your own research is such a interesting concept. The more and more I think about it, because it's not just one thing. And I think it starts where you're saying, okay, let's first evaluate. Like, where are we? What have we got? What can we do? And what do we want? And I think that point you made as well about, I'm going to buy 1,000 Rands worth of Bitcoin. Okay, let me see how long it took Bitcoin to double 3 times, because you don't want to just look at one double. So let's go back. Okay, now what is the average of the last 3 times Bitcoin doubled? That's how long it's going to take me. Do I want to make 1,000 Rand in 2 years? Can I do something better with my 1,000 Rand?
Yeah, and I think this is where strategies comes in, and that's maybe where research is a more sort of apt phrase to use, because for that lady, for example, I said to her, look, personally, I think, and I know you fairly well, so I think you're wasting your time buying 1,000 Rands worth of Bitcoin and sitting back. If I was you, I'd rather be buying 250 Rands worth of Bitcoin every month, and set that commitment to do that for the next 4 years. And if you end up, if you go and look at that, now you're not just buying an investment. Now you almost buying into some sort of self-enforced savings policy. So there's different benefits. It's a whole different proposition, as opposed to just saying, well, let me buy 1,000 Rands worth of Bitcoin. So again,
this is so interesting, because I think it also then, even before evaluating, it is, and you talk a lot about it as well, Gareth, with sort of understanding, where you're kind of going. What is this? And I think that's another thing, is understanding what value is. We're really redefining what that is, because historically, right, we were told, like, here we are, this is money, and you get the money by doing a job, and then you spend the money to get things you want. So we also can't bring those thoughts of money, fiat, because it's different to what Bitcoin is and what we have to learn about, because of the sovereignty of it. And that's another whole, so you really have to even go further back and say, okay, well, what is value? How do I value myself? What is, so yeah.
And again, you're opening a can of worms there, because again, there's other people where I've said, buy a couple of hundred worth of Bitcoin or do a bit of DCA or whatever. And for me, I could see that the value is not going to come out of the actual Bitcoin that they're buying. It's going to come from the fact that they've got a Bitcoin wallet on their phone or their device. They've got a little widget that displays the price, and it almost makes them think about money more, and it makes them think more logically about money. So they might not be making money on the Bitcoin they're buying, but for those specific group of people, I guarantee you now, they're actually saving money by not wasting money on a credit card. They're actually saving in other areas. So Bitcoin is not necessarily just a medium of exchange, or just a store of value, or just something that's going to go up in value. It's also something that, if you're into it, it can actually augment the way you act in other areas, which ultimately benefits you.
Yeah, look, I'm big into the kind of, and again, just learn by doing. you know, and starting with that little bit. And that brings me back to just before we kind of, because we laughed. We did how we laughed, where I said I've only got an hour and it's going to be a hard stop. Oh, how we laughed. Here we are. Sorry, Gareth and I, for those of you who may have watched, we can talk for a long time. I get sidetracked and forget I'm actually doing an interview and think I'm just having a cup of coffee with friends. Let's just quickly, before we kind of tie up, and then we have to do an AI show. We'll just do a special edition next week, maybe, and we'll talk about open claw, because, oh my God, I just don't want to talk about that. But I'm not starting that now. No, Gareth. Yeah, the bit. What I do want to talk about is layers. Breathe in and lean back. Everything will be okay. Why can't we? Because this is why doesn't this exist? Where I can go and open a wallet and have play money and do the transactions, but not actually be using my own money, so that I can get used to the fact that I can bring the money in, take the money out. Is that too difficult? Why don't we, why isn't that a thing?
It is. Why aren't you doing it?
What? Get faucet money, faucet play money.
No, you don't need faucet money. You can go and get Layers wallet. We'll send you some tokens. Doesn't cost anything. Send it for free, receive it for free.
What token?
Whatever token you want. I'll send you some Layers wallet tokens.
I want to tell my friends, the reason I'm asking this is because so many of my friends want to try it, but then they have that fear of letting go. It's like, I'm sending my money into another dimension. Will I get it back? How do I get it out? And I literally open up my because on the Discovery Bank app, you can see your fiat and your Bitcoin in Luna there. You just swap between them and it shows. And it actually shows up on your, if you with Vitality, with Discovery, it actually shows as your savings. You get points for it, for owning Bitcoin. So, what?
Oh, I didn't know that because I'm on Vitality. I haven't tried that.
Yes, if you have a Bitcoin.
No, but hang on. What is it that you want to? Do you want to send real Bitcoins, or do you want to send play Bitcoins?
I want to be able to say to my friends, download a wallet. Okay, you don't have to use your real money. You can play with play coins. So you almost have like a setup.
Yeah, so you can do that.
Can you? If you download
there's two ways you can do it. You can either enable the test nets, and I'll send you tokens on whatever test net there is, like Bitcoin test net or whatever. So that gives you one way of doing it. So you just enable it in the settings. But for me, and this is where I think something like NFTs come in that I actually like. I'm not a big NFT fan, as you know, in terms of it being an investable thing that's going to go up in value. But in terms of a fun thing to learn and to understand and to explore, you can do that now. You can send tokens that aren't actually worth anything, but they're in the wallet, they display in the wallet. You can send them, you can receive them. It sort of gets you over that fear of scanning an address and receive address and am I doing it right? Understanding the mechanics of cryptocurrency transactions. You can do that now.
Okay. No, I just always try and figure out how I can tell my friends, but that's what I'll do. I'll just say, I forgot about the test net, even though I am on lots of test nets. I forgot about that. You can actually tell them to get a wallet like Layers, and then that is the play side of things. Yeah, okay. Swear, sometimes you'd think I don't know what was going on. I actually do.
But you're right, because this is, again, one of the things that a lot of people miss. They don't get that. If you're a complete noob, then there's sort of three things that you're getting involved with if you want to buy Bitcoin tomorrow. You need to learn the technology, the mechanics, the app itself. That's a learning experience in itself. You need to understand what money is, in like as in dollars and rands. Like you need to understand that, and you need to get your head around how that works. Otherwise, the hard limits aren't going to make sense to you. And then on top of that, now you need to also start understanding I want to use the word forex, but the concept of exchanging one asset for another. And so that's three completely different things that you need to learn.
That I find, weirdly enough, is the biggest resistance, is that how do I change it from my rand, because I speak to mostly people who've got rands here. How do I take my rands from my bank? Can I get it back and put it in my bank? And I'm like, yeah. But that is like a huge thing for a lot of people, for everyone I talk to. But can I take it out?
But it's a big hurdle. And again, if I was you, in terms of those little conversations, this is where we're very fortunate in South Africa. This is where you go, listen, you don't need to necessarily sell the Bitcoin. Buy 1,000 rands worth of Bitcoin and start spending it at Pick and Pay, just to get into then you don't have that selling it back. It's more of a, and this is why I'm so big on the whole stablecoin thing, because I don't even tell people to get into Bitcoin anymore. I just stick to just change it for dollars and play with your dollars. Just get a feel for it, because then that teaches them the technology that you're not sort of throwing it all at once. All you're doing is saying, here's a way for you to play with dollars. As simple as that.
Yeah, I like that as well.
And NFTs. There's my NFT.
And NFTs, and
that's so cute. Is that
a lot of these things are fun?
Yeah, that's on Stacks on Layers.
I didn't realize you've really done them.
It's called Layers.
But
Layers Zoo. I remember.
Yeah, but I've given up. I told you I've given up trying to get.
No, I've got the info you need. By the way, I just forgot to send it to you.
Brilliant. Yeah, I mean the new one coming out in I think it's next week or the week after. It'll probably be next week. So you've got NFTs on Spark as well now, so it's a lot cheaper to send and receive. But they've got a really cool one, the stablecoin on Spark, where you earn yield in Bitcoin just by holding dollars.
Oh wow!
And it's paid daily. So that to me is a fantastic onboarding tool, because I'm going to say to somebody, buy $100, buy $50 worth of USDB, so stable coin. So you're holding dollars, so that you don't have that massive volatility risks that you do obviously with Bitcoin, but they're earning sats. So now you sort of, you sort of slowly getting them.
Is this something on offer? Or are you going?
I think it's going live. I mean, I've got it on my phone already, but I think it's going into production next week sometime.
Wow.
I think it's next week.
Nice.
Brilliant.
Let me see.
Very, very cool.
While you chat, I'll send you a screenshot.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I think it's been a fascinating, just sort of delving into what you guys have been through, and kind of just, I hope that, people listening have learned something. And, for me, it's just the most important part is just to know what you are getting yourself into, and don't just trust one person. Don't watch one video, read one article, read a website. And if you're going to deal with a person, make sure that you have actually been in a room with them, and you know them, and other people that have known them. Don't just meet somebody online and trust them, even if they say they're from some fancy company, because you can make anything online look great. So yeah, very interesting conversation. Thank you, Louis. If you want to read a little bit more about it, Louis writes about it. Louis, tell us how people can follow you, get in touch with you, read your blog, all that stuff.
Yeah, so I'm on X or Twitter. My name, Louis Nel, @LouisNel, and my blog's also louisnel.co.za. So there's quite a few articles there about our adventures and Bitcoin stuff. Well, it's mostly tech and lifestyle and a little bit of everything. But I always post links on X, so it's the best place to go look for it.
Excellent. And Gareth, from your side, what should
mine Easiest is just to go on X at Gareth Grobler. I've got a link tree there with all my links to everything else I'm involved in. So the simplest way is just going on X. I've sent you that screenshot. Have a look at that. So again, it's not crazy, but I'd rather earn 6% on US dollar as Bitcoin than holding Rand.
Oh, wow. Fascinating, isn't it? Yeah, look, I mean, I think that is probably, I know you've been talking about it for a long time. You and me have had some interesting conversations about the old stable coin. The jury is still out when it comes to me. But what do I know? So yeah, Gareth, people can find you on X. And what is next for you?
No, well, I'm just focused on layers at the moment. Like I said, we sort of in production, but we haven't really officially launched, and that's the main thing we're working on. We really want to, like I said, I was a hardcore Bitcoiner, but I've sort of come away from that position because I think I've realized that, you need layers. And sorry for the pun, but you need layers. My kids started out on PayPal. They didn't start out on, having a Swift account. So you need these different layers, and we want to, the goal with the product that we're building is, it's a wallet for all intents and purposes, but ultimately, I think it's more of a way to make Bitcoin useful, earning, but keeping it all self-custodial. So giving you access to the whole ecosystem. I think that's the goal, is to provide something that's a bit more than just let me sit on Bitcoin. Because that I keep saying this, we need that. We need the 90%. We need the average guy, the plumber, the teacher. We need the average person on the street to be using Bitcoin, but they don't necessarily need to even know about Bitcoin, if that makes sense. We just need them on the Bitcoin rails.
Yeah, and I think what I like about it is, in real life, you've got your bank and then you've got your investment houses, and you need to have access to all of it, and I think when you become too rigid in what you're investing in or what you are kind of preaching or whatever it is, you kind of really are not realistically looking at the world, just my opinion, because the world is, you've got loads of different currencies, so there's place for everything, and then you've got your bank, and it's teaching people that you are now your bank. And I think by having something like layers, where you're exposing them to all these different layer twos on Bitcoin and beyond, you are then exposing them to different investment houses, because that's almost what the investment house is of the future. It's like, okay, I've got this much money, let me go and find out. And I mean, it's obviously going to get easier, and I think with sort of super intelligence or whatever, it will get even easier, where you will have your own financial agent or whatever it is. But
you're really pushing that open claw conversation, aren't you? No, but just a little quick one to sort of sign off with, and this is the interesting thing. So I'm talking to a guy who arranges one of the big conferences, and he wants me to speak. Then he's like, what topics, blah blah blah, and I'm like, okay, I think for this one I'd quite like to do why stable coins is the simplest path to adoption in emerging markets. And I got it shut down immediately. He's like, no, we're not talking about stable coins. We're not talking, it's not Bitcoin. This is a Bitcoin only conference. We're not doing it. And I'm sort of thinking to myself, this is, the core Bitcoin thing is anti-censorship. It's anti, that's a real Bitcoiner is sort of anti-censorship. And I'm like, you this hardcore real, it's very ironic that this hardcore real Bitcoiner doesn't want you to speak to a Bitcoin audience about anything other than something that reinforces their own narrative. And I'm like, yeah, that's sort of censorship, isn't it? But this is the kind of stuff we need to work on. And yeah, hopefully, I mean, you never know, I might be wrong. So, but I do think that the layer twos are really what's needed. And the understanding of what the layer twos can do is really what's needed to bridge that gap. Because like I said, in the beginning, I was one of those people, if you're too stupid to understand it, I don't have the time to convince you. So But I think that's the wrong approach. I think I'm not saying everyone needs to change. It's good to have the people all the way on the right-hand side or on the left-hand side, whichever way you think about it, sort of putting that flag in the ground saying this is the ultimate. I'm happy with that. But I think there's quite a big spectrum in the middle. And we need to try and get the majority involved rather than getting the minority hyper involved.
Yeah. And to understand that there's not just one path and one goal. You know, that is not what human life is. You know, so it's kind of sorry, Louis.
Yeah. No, you just gave me an idea. Remember those books we used to read, choose your own adventure books?
Yes.
So this is how Bitcoin should be. You read up till page 7 and then you jump to
I'm telling you, this
layer.
is a book.
I mean, yeah. Why everyone's book is different. So that's how it should be.
Yeah.
That's so good. Gareth, that's an NFT idea.
Not bad, Louis. We'll work on that.
Yeah, because
once I've got my OpenClaw working and I have 12 assistants assisting me, then I'll have bandwidth to do that. How does that sound?
Let's go with the OpenClaw. Okay, I'm busy. Don't worry. Let's not. Well, that will be. You know what? I interviewed Danny from On-Chain Monkey the other day, and we lost Gareth. There he comes. And he is honestly one of the most interesting. Just getting Gareth back in here. Just give me a second. No. Oh my God.
What are you doing to me?
He fired up his OpenClaw and then it kicked him off the network.
But this guy was so fascinating. He's been working in AI since about 2000. So he was involved with the building of that Honda Etios, that first robot, like back in the. And oh my gosh, that was such a fascinating conversation about AI. And he said to me, let's, go away, set one up, and then let's do another show. And then we'll, you can talk through your kind of what you went through and what's been like, you talking to us and all that. So I'll challenge you to do that as well. We'll do it. Have you set one up yet, Louis?
I'm busy setting one up on a Raspberry Pi because I wanted to see what this smallest device was you can run it on. So apparently OpenClaw runs on a Pi 5, the latest Raspberry Pi, but I've got a Pi 4. So, but I'm tweaking it to run on there. But yeah, it's touch and go. But there are variants of OpenClaw, other flavors that you can install that run. There's one called PicoClaw. The guy said it runs on anything with a CPU.
Oh my word! No, it's too funny for words for me. I'm busy setting up. I've got a Mac, because I don't want to buy. I still first have to see if I can, how far I can take this. So I've got a Mac that I'm busy sort of cleaning and wiping, and because I don't want anything to do with my outside world. My friend set one up the other day. But he's like a tech guy. So he kind of was, doing whatever. The next thing, this thing just started messaging his wife and one of his friends. And he was like, he put it on our WhatsApp group. We were crying, laughing. It just is like, how did he even do it? He's like, oh no, he doesn't even want to know what he programmed because he's busy fiddling, in the back end. So that's why I'm scared of it. It's like, I just need it on a separate machine, far away from the cloud, far away from my things. To play with.
Well, I bought a little mini PC specifically for this. Arrived yesterday, and I'm now about to reinstall it for the 5th time because I'm setting it all up. It all gets to a point, and I'm like, hang on, I want to see what it is. And this is the problem with being inquisitive. I'm like, hang on, let me go and look at the configuration files, and then I'm seeing this is true, this is false. And now I'm changing all sorts of stuff. Reboot.
What my friend did, and the next thing was messaging his wife.
Reboot. Nothing works. Right. Let's start again. So I'll probably by the 10th installation, I'll probably get it working the way I want it to work. So we'll see.
I'm dragging my 13-year-old son in. I just said to him, "Listen, it's not negotiable. Mom and son time this weekend. You're helping me get OpenClaw on my computer." Shame. child labor. What were you saying, Louis?
No, I had the same. I botched the operating system, so I had to flash the whole drive again. So it happens. I mean, that's part of the learning curve. Because something went wrong in the installation, and it wouldn't boot again. So I had to wipe the whole drive.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I feel so nervous, but at the same time, someone else said to me, just sit down with like ChatGPT and say, guide me, just tell me step by step, and then just follow those instructions, and you should sort of be able to make it work. So I don't know.
And if you get error messages, just put it in ChatGPT and say, how do I resolve this?
Yeah.
And then it'll work with you.
Yeah. Somebody said I mustn't do it that way, and then somebody said I must. So I don't know. I think again, just do it. Do your own thing. Anyway, all right. Well, thank you guys very, very, very much for joining me today and for talking about this 476 million rand lawsuit. I'm fascinated by it, and just keep me in the loop as to how it all works out. And then also layers, I'm excited to see what is going to happen there over the next couple of weeks. So you got to keep me informed, and we'll maybe do some live demos. And I think I love and I'm obsessed with Lou's idea about the, make your own Bitcoin story. I really think that there is something incredible there, actually. And I think, working with artists or writers, to create like a start story, a beginning story, and then you kind of mint NFTs and see where your story takes you, and somehow they all, the NFTs come in layers.
See, I've already in my head, I was already thinking about that, because you can actually do it quite well in GitHub, so that it actually becomes a thing where you fork whatever branch you want, and then you continue the story. And you could end up with literally a million different stories, all starting with the same sort of origin point. But yeah, that's a whole different thing to think about.
That's a great idea. I really like write your own Bitcoin story. I think that there's something very beautiful about that, and giving people kind of this sense of ownership and in their learning, and that it doesn't have to follow this rigid, path of and these rules that are kind of like around Bitcoin that kind of keep it very restricted in many ways. So yeah,
we should get together more often and come up with some good ideas.
We'll just we'll turn this into a working group.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well,
I'll send my agent.
Yeah, my agent will talk to your agent.
Sounds good.
Oh, well. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, just for being open to talk about this. I feel like I got educated today, and I hope you guys listening in feel the same way. So yeah, this has been Bitcoin and Beyond. I'm Melanie Carsten's been chatting to Louis, been chatting to Gareth. I'm here every single Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you very much for joining us. Bye. Bye, Gareth. Bye, Louis.
Thanks.
Cheers.